So without taking a lot of time, we are going to just to begin. Remember, by the way, we have tried to engage. I have tried to engage a lot of people. I have tried to engage the people on the Parliamentary Commission of Human Rights. That includes the MP Fox Odoi. I've called him I don't know how many times, but really there's something that's going on in Uganda. People fear, like I always say, people fear engaging with the Ugandans. I called him, he told me he was abroad before the parliamentary session in Gulu. When I called him again, he told me he's attending parliamentary session in Gulu. I think that was yesterday. So when I called him today, he turned off the call. So these are people that you think who show themselves out there that actually they are fighting for Uganda, no matter what their political party, because you have seen Fox Odoi showing that he really, he loves the fights for rights of Ugandans and all that. But at the end of the day, they're not willing to commit when there is a discussion that involves Ugandans. So they are very okay when Parliament sends them to visit Luzira and all that. But when it comes to engaging with Ugandans, they really don't want. Because I've engaged with him. He told me he's abroad. I called him again. He told me he's attending Parliament in Gulu, and he told me you can hear I'm attending Parliament in Gulu. I tell you no problem. You will call me when you're done. When I called him again today, he actually turned down the call. So I also reached out to Nyeko. Nyeko Derek is also one of the members that was sitting on the Parliamentary Human Rights Committee, but he never responded. And I reached out to Honorable Namboze, who actually responded. So we are expecting her. I don't know. Anything will happen, but may happen. But I talked with her. I talked with Honorable Betty Namboze. So she agreed to attend. I talked to the handler, who is the son, and they agreed. So, but they told me they will be busy by this time. They are trying to see how they can manage their programs to be able to attend. Okay. We'll start from here. Members, Ugandans, if you are attending this place, we are talking about the state of our prisons. And the good thing here, we have ladies who have been in prison in the women's side and men who have been in prison on men's side. So it actually draws a balance. And if you have ever been in prison in any other prison outside Kampala, you can really request for the mic and you tell us what is your experience that side. One of the things you have to know is that if Luzira prison is like that, so ask yourself, how about other prisons? When I went to Kabale, I saw prisons Kabale, which is near town. I know, Nalongo, you must have seen that prison. It is near the town, and you can really see what the work they're doing inside. So you can see, how they're treated by just passing there. I saw that prison. I've also passed, through, I've seen also the Masindi prison. Actually, you can see when you are going to Chiriandongo, you see those huge mazes that are there. Those one, the prison, it's the prisoners that are working there. That huge plantation that you see when you are going to through Chiriandongo, going to northern Uganda. Yeah. Then also the near one here in Wakiso is Sentema. Those of you who are in Wakiso, you go through Sentema, you see those huge prisons. Most of you normally when you are around, you'll see prisoners moving around, being moved in the trucks going to work. So there's a lot of hard labor. There's a lot of hard labor in prisons, which we need to know whether it is constitutional or non-constitutional, and other things that we need to know. Malazi and Echigali and other things we are going to hear. So if you have ever been in prison in other prisons outside Kampala, outside Luzira also, please request the mic and tell us. Nalong has dropped, Kule also dropping, so I don't know what's happening, but as soon as you get back, please, take the mic back. We can, yes. So I want to start with Kule. First of all, tell us, what you saw exactly in the main site as other people, like, I know it was your first time to go to, and some of the things that people expect when they're outside. What were you expecting to see inside, and what is the condition? Where with the ward that you stayed in? How was the situation and things like that? We need to paint a picture of what happens really in those cells. In those they are called wards. What really happens in those cells. So we are going to drive our conversation towards that until we get other speakers on board. I think I will ask the same question to Nalongo because Kule has dropped. I see you guys are struggling with network. Nalongo, tell us what really happens in the women's site in the prisons. Thank you so much, Nalongo. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, our host this evening. I thank all listeners, I thank fellow speakers, and hope that this evening we'll learn a thing or two about what's going on in detention centers such as Luzira Women Prison. I'd love to start by giving you the brief of what, by way of introduction, sorry, maybe some people may not know who I am. My name is Nana Namata Anet Mwafrika Mbarikiwa. I am a mother of twins. They're from called Nalongo. That's why our host MP James keeps referring to me as Nalongo. Nalongo is the title you get for having twins. I am a very active member of society, concerned member of my community and the country at large. I am a human rights defender. I am based in Kampala. I am a mother and a business entrepreneur. That's who I am in brief. Uganda prison services, in my view, in the little knowledge I have about the institutions in this country that I call home, if I may quote, maybe not direct quoting, but Article 215, like in this Uganda prison, Uganda shall have a prison service known as Uganda Prison Services. It shall
sorry, Nalongo, we are having
be national by character.
Nalongo, can you repeat the whole article, because we really didn't get anything. You had a connection issue.
Loyal, professional.
Well, we did get the article that you are reading, because
that they are convicts of murder or theft or corruption or embezzlement. Nothing like that, but fellow human rights defenders, human rights activists, concerned Ugandans that took to the call, that responded to the call for 23rd July to stand and march to Parliament, to stand and be firm against corruption. That is, I am one of those people. On the 25th of July, 2 days into the beginning of march to Parliament, I responded to the call of what we thought would be the second day of action against corruption, especially in Parliament. I would consequently be arrested and sent to Luzira Women Prison, where I spent 7 days. And in my experience there, I found that nearly all rights that prisoners should have are totally interfered with. First and foremost, I can share the few rights that I have off-head that prisoners will stay with, that people in detention should be having rights to. It doesn't, being in detention, people are not really guilty people. People are not convicted yet. People are just there to be, while investigations go on. So not everybody that's in prison is a convict, is a guilty person. But even the convicts and the guilty people have rights that must not be removed under any circumstances. They are those absolute rights that we all have simply because we are human beings. And those are some of the rights that prisoners remain with and should not be tampered with even in their state of being in detention. Prisoners shall be free. Their right to be free from ill treatment and torture, it should stand. Their right to life, it should stand. Persons in detention should have the right to clean clothing, clean environment and water, and as well as beddings. But all of these, the quick ones that I have off-head, the right to life of prisoners in the women's prison at Luzira is greatly under threat. I repeat, the right to life of prisoners is at risk. I will tell you.
Yes, Nalongo. Sorry, Nalongo, we lost you. You're saying that the right to life of women prisoners in Luzira is at risk. That's why we stop. We can't hear you.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Am I audible now?
Yes, please.
If I am audible now, I had been saying, I don't know when you stopped hearing me and what I was saying. Would you please?
You say that the rights to life of women prisoners in Luzira is at risk. So that's why you have.
Yes. And this I experienced firsthand. Congestion, deadly congestion of this prison. I think that a space, for example, I'll give you an example of one ward that I was practically in, and the one that was next to mine. That's ward 1 and 2. That space, I think if it was meant for so many people, each of those wards can't have been meant for more than 25, more than maybe 18 inmates. But each time, for every day I was there of the 7 days, we were between 100, 110, 80, 70 when it drops, when they transfer some others, when they take others to court. So for me, I found that the right to life of prisoners is threatened not just by torture, but also by, that congestion and the kind of food and nutrition is also a right that prisoners should have, and it shouldn't be tampered with. But the kind of food that's given to prisoners, and that's if you get it. When we were new, we spent into our third day, we hadn't been supplied with the plastic, they are nearly buckets that they give prisoners, huge plastic containers where they should collect their food when it comes into the room where they sleep. Right to life threatened by risk, very high risk of disease coming from unstable water supply. The time we were there, the water was rationed. When we were packed into that ward, 3 p.m. you get into almost sleep mode. 3 p.m. is when your day should end. You get packed into that small space that serves as both. It's your living space, it's your sleeping space, it's your sitting space, it's your bathroom, it's your toilet, because the spot in it that's meant to be a bathroom, the door is broken. The door broke out. The doors have since, got eaten up by age. So it's one big bus. It's like a space. You're in a bus. That's why your kitchen will be. That's why your sleeping arrangement will be. That's why your sitting arrangement will be. That's where your bathroom toilet arrangement must fit. Right to life of prisoners under threat. By 3 you get in and you can hear padlocks. They have locks that they add to the metallic doors, the heavy metal sounding, clicking of keys and padlocks, getting locked in. You get locked in by, the women in, brown uniform who walk away, I think, to their quarter guards where they wait. I don't know where they patrol from outside there. You get locked in there. Out of the 100 women or so that were in the ward I was, most of the days that I was there, I must say that maybe 85% were coughing. The moment they put those locks on the doors, the ventilation looks like it has attracted a lot of dust from outside. The nets, you can see, they hold a lot of dust. They hold all manner of stuff that, holds the air out. As soon as they lock, women start to cough. Women are itching. Women are struggling for a moment in the one room that should be bathroom, toilet, and everything. It has rationed water. The water is not running all the time. So every time they go to use it, they have to have spared a little water in a bucket somewhere and kept it to be used. So those that haven't secured the moment at the water when it first runs in the morning at about 6:30, the water begins to run, and then they are coming to count you. You're new, you don't have maybe the bucket or basin or jerrycan to collect water.
Nalongo, we lost you there. Nalongo, we lost you. You're talking about collecting water using those buckets. I think that's where you stopped. If you can hear me, please, that's where we stopped hearing you. So, Ronald, I think you were there. Ronald is also a protester. As Nalong comes back, Ronald is also a protester on 23rd, protested against corruption. He's also a young activist. So, as Nalong comes back, we need to probably will give opportunity to Ronald Kule, the influence, as Nalong gets back. So, Ronald, are you there? Ronald, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me, please?
Yes, please. Tell us about your experience in Luzira and Kigali, and what you think about everything that takes place in the cells there.
Yes, thank you so much, Comrade Suna, for holding this wonderful space. And to everyone that is on the space, thank you so much for giving in your time to be here. Actually, am I still being heard?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Go ahead.
Yes, there are a few things that I need to talk about when I talk about the state of the Uganda prisons. Like Nelson Mandela said that for every activist, prison is always the second home. So I am talking about my other home, because when I was there, I was really making observations, because it is now part of me. One thing that I'll talk about is that in Luzira there is a lot of congestion. The cells are so much overcrowded, and we heard from Mr. Musime, I think he's the deputy commissioner, I think so, or deputy OC Luzira, Mason Day. So he told us that those cells, when we try to when we were meeting him, we told him about the issue of congestion, because some of our colleagues had different conditions, and they needed not to be treated like the other physically fit inmates. So when we told him about congestion and the Kigali, he told us that those cells there were constructed, or we actually constructed in a way that they were made to accommodate 20 inmates. And I want to show you in the cells that were made, those small halls that were made for 20 inmates each, are actually accommodating over 120 each. And that is if you're lucky. If you're lucky and you take it to a less populated cell, you'll find that you have over 120 inmates. But other cells, you find that the cell is having 130, except for a few that they call lodges. Those ones, they have around 80, 90. So, so the cells that are meant to accommodate 20 inmates, I think you can try to imagine a cell or a room that is meant to accommodate 20 inmates, and it is prison. Those 20 inmates are not sleeping well. Definitely, they're not having good sleeping conditions. They're not having enough space. But that cell, which is already prison and is accommodating 20 people, literally, if it was under normal circumstance, it was actually meant to accommodate like 5 to 10 people. But it is meant to accommodate 20 people. But it is the same cell that now prison is using apparently to accommodate 120 inmates. So it is a 120-fold increase in the number of the prisoners that are supposed to be accommodated. So that makes life in Luzira very complicated and hectic, and it is actually a major challenge there. You know, up to now, I'm still battling issues with my chest. I came out with chest pain. I have contracted complicated cough. I'm here to test it because I don't really understand it. And this is an effect of the Chigali. You see, when you're sleeping there, it is actually one leg. We look at your one leg. You're supposed to sleep on your one leg, and that leg is supposed to accommodate the entire body of yours. So you sleep, you put your one leg down, and everything on your body should be accommodated on that one leg, so that the 120 people can reach in the cell. And that is the life in Luzira. And another thing that I'll talk about is in Luzira there is the feeding is really terrible. The feeding there is really terrible. One of our colleagues, Makana, I don't know whether he's on the call yet. When we were there the first day before we received the food, he called the food he called it chachu. I don't know what does chachu mean, but to me I looked at it as pigs feed.
Chachu is a chicken feeds.
Chicken feed, yes.
Mm.
So one of our colleagues called it chachu because the way it looked, like you literally draw a picture. Someone could easily see that they got the whole maize plant, not the other maize, the other maize that we eat. You literally look at someone who got the whole maize plant with the leaves, with everything, with the roots, and put it in the machine, grinded shortly, and started cooking for prisoners. That's how the food looks like. Literally, I know even some of their pigs that they have stolen iron sheets for cannot even eat the other food. You see, we know that members of our government stole iron sheets that were made for Karamajo, for the Karamajongs and used them to construct shelter for their pigs. So those pigs that sleep in those housings cannot eat the food that is in Luzira. And when you talk about the things, people think we are exaggerating, but I want to assure you that the state of Luzira prison, the state of Uganda prison, I've been at Mason Bay. It is really alarming. There is a lot of human rights violations there. I think that I'll talk about, as a normal man, we all know that we have times when you're supposed to erect. Hey, I am a science student, so I'll
talk about it. Talk about that science. Mm.
Yes, let me talk about that science. So the days I was there, actually I was there for 9 days, but within those 9 days, the first 3, by the end of the first 3 days, I had actually stopped, observing my normal body physiology. Because as a normal human being, early in the morning you're supposed to erect. We have times when you're supposed to erect. Normally, even if you have not been stimulated. But I gave it time because as a biology student, as a medical scholar, I got much interested in that because I was looking at, is there some kind of chemicals that they put in the water? Do they put in the food? Because I tried to interact with some of the inmates that were actually feeding on their food, and for them they were like, that is how they have been. Some of them were even giving a testimony that they are coming to 2 months without erecting. So this is something that is really abnormal and is alarming because you go there when you're normal, but the first 2 days you start becoming abnormal. So you have to think about probably what you're being fed on because you don't know what is being put in these foods. You don't know where they get them. You don't know everything about them. So you definitely have to think about and actually to try to confirm my thinking. Because when we started eating our own food that was made specially, after the 3 days, I started observing my normal physiology. Things started moving on normally like I had been before I was taken there. So I realized that probably they could be having some anti-steroid chemicals that they put in their food. Because when I ate on their food, as a prisoner, of course I had to test on their food for the first 3 days. I witnessed a certain change. But when I stopped eating their food and we were being given food, I was just feasting on their porridge. At least I saw that even if it was not as normal as I were when I was out, but at least there was a very big change. So I actually drew a conclusion that there are some anti-steroid chemicals that they give to those prisoners. And Now, my worry was that if someone is exposed to those chemicals, yes, they could be fine because they may tell us they want to curb homosexuality. Yes, it is fine. But what is the long-term effect of those chemicals, if at all they give them? What could be the long-term effect of exposing inmates to those chemicals? That is something that actually I came out thinking about, and the moment I get power,
So are you now back to your normal sexual ways?
Yes.
Are you strong enough, guy?
Yes, apparently I'm back to my normal sexual ways, because when I came out, I had to change that. I went back to my previous menu before prison, and things started normalizing. But of course, it was a gradual process.
Okay. I want to Nalongo have dropped. You've come back. I've sent you a mic. If you can hear me, please accept that mic. I want to ask you, Nalongo, what compared you to start the campaign? When you got out, you really started a campaign online. I can see you have online campaign really going against prisons, the one that I've tagged there, Uganda prisons, and exposing everything that happens inside. What pushed you to that, and what you wish to achieve in that campaign? So now, when you come back, please reply to that. Influence, Kule, please talk about the prisons system of saving spaces, which we call amalaz, where some prisoners get a space, because really you said the prisons cells or wards were constructed for 25 people, but you find over 100 people sleeping in that small space. And what contributes to that is amalaz, those people that own small spaces that would have been occupied by maybe 2 or 3 inmates. So probably people need to know that, I think, how entrenched it is in the system, and how the prisons actually allows it as prisons department.
Yes, and actually about that malaz issue, discovered that in Luzira, if you want to sleep so well, you pay money, which is not less than 50,000. And now 50,000, that is for ordinary safe sleeping, for ordinary, whereby you put aside with some blanket and you sleep there. Then for those ones who want to sleep like VIPs, they pay over 100,000, and they have called that ward contribution fee. That's how they have termed it. They are fearing to call it payment for sleeping space. So they have called it ward contribution fee. You contribute for the development of the ward, giving unnecessary justification that the inmates or the ward leader is the one responsible from those collections, is the one responsible for the installment of the television, installment of they say that money is the one that helps in modifying or in trying to renovate the ward. So that's the justification they've given for that payment, of which to me I look at it as really corruption, because it is not necessary. If you have a functional government and people are paying taxes, then why should the inmates be the ones to contribute for the renovation of the wards? Literally, they are the ones renovating the prison. Where does the money meant for that from government go? And the prison administration is very comfortable with that, because in prison they don't allow cash money. So you'll be having your money in the accounts, and when you're making ward contribution, you go to the accounts and they transfer your money from your account to the account of either the ward leader or the ward. You see, they have even created accounts for the ward. So it means this is the people in charge of prison, the prison officers, they have also generated a system that the inmates who are well off should contribute for the renovation of their respective wards, and actually eventually renovation of the entire prison, so that money that is meant for those activities should be actually embezzled by them, the prison officers. And that is corruption in my view. That is corruption, because you're exploiting the prisoners at your own expense. You're exposing the unable prisoners. We are not financially equal. Like for me, all the days I spent there, I was sleeping in the Chigali, because I had not gone with money, and me, I don't always give in to corruption. I would rather suffer than give in to corruption. That is some principle that I have said. I had some little money on my account that I could give, and they get for me an ordinary sleeping space. But I had colleagues in the world that I was in. I had colleagues that couldn't get that money. So I could actually, I felt like, and these were first time protesters. So I felt that like I should stand in solidarity with them. We all face the Chigali until we get out. And these colleagues of mine were definitely happy. The money that I would give in as ward contribution for sleeping space, I instead ordered for sugar and some other logistics that to top on what those of others had given us. And this assisted us. We slept in the Chigali, and I got that experience. But this is a strategy that has been set by the prison management to ensure that the inmates, I really believe they even get some share, because how for sure do you allow in a government like this one, you allow prisoners to renovate the prison. Prisoners who are not employed, where do you expect them to get money? And these are the people that have prolonged, there is theft within prison because someone will see your shoe, they will steal it. They will steal it and exchange it into something. They will steal it.
That's where I was going about safety and probably you can talk briefly about it. Nalongo is not yet back, so I don't know what's wrong. But then talk about the safety and also lack of I can call it did you saw the outside bathroom where people are supposed to shower from outside, so you all remove your clothes and go and shower when all the inmates are just watching there. You saw that?
Yes, I saw that. Actually, as I link up to the issue of safety, I really believe that there is a lot that we need to talk about prison, about the malaise, about the sleeping space. It is corruption itself. It is corruption because how do we ask those officers to account for the finances that are made to renovate the prisons if the prisoners are renovating their respective wards and eventually renovating the entire prison? And the theft there, actually, for us, we were so lucky that when we reached there, some of the world leaders really understood the cause. They really understood the cause of fighting corruption. So they literally knew that we had no case. They literally knew that we had no criminal offense. They literally knew that we were fighting for them, for their rights equally. So there is a way they gave us protection. They could get our things and keep them for us. But definitely we could hear complaints from other inmates complaining about the loss of their things. You leave your sandals, they are stolen. And like I told you, they don't allow money there. It is barter trade. Someone will steal your sandal and will take it to someone, to the ward leader, and he is in turn given some 2 days to sleep well. And that is how theft is working there. They are relying on barter trade, but theft is too much. And this theft is being prolonged, perpetuated by the prison officers, because if they can allow some sleeping space, where do they expect these people to get money? Where do they really expect these prisoners who do not have jobs to get money? So, the other thing that I will need to talk about is that there is really lack of rehabilitation, because we saw that in Merchants Bay they have counselors. These counselors are prisoners themselves. So I came out wondering how a fellow prisoner would easily counsel another prisoner. So the inmates were actually doing the work of counseling, and I expect that a prison like Ruzira is supposed to have a very good sector of rehabilitation, because people are taken there, they really need mental support, they really need mental guidance. Some people commit crimes simply because they have some mental disorders. And these people are not isolated, by the way. They are taken there on account that they have just committed crimes. They don't account for the fact that they could be battling some mental illnesses, that they need some rehabilitation. So the rehabilitation in Luzira Merchants Bay in particular is really alarming, because how do you really let a prisoner to give to counsel a fellow prisoner? How do you really trust that prisoner that he will be able to give a supportive counsel to another prisoner? It is really not making sense. It doesn't really add up. The other thing that I will talk about is prolonged detention. You find that they are interacting with some inmates that we found there. Some had been detained for over 9 months. So look at someone being detained for over 3 years. Someone has been was tried in court for the last 3 years, and people have given up with court, because someone tells you, I did not commit the crime. They are trying me in court, but I've appeared in court twice. And the first time they told me the file got lost. The second time they told me the state was not around, and probably the person is preparing for the third time. And people have given up. They have given up about court. People no longer want to hear about being taken to court, because they have been detained for a very long time. They actually so much aware that the justice system is very rotten. They know that they are on their own. They are hopeless. They know that, I'm talking about remandees. They have been remanded for a very long time. They know that what will just help them is dying, and this is someone who is just a suspect. He's still innocent. We probably think he did not commit the offense, but someone has just given up because of the red justice system. Someone has been detained for very long, for a long time than the constitutionally recommended period. This is really indicating that our country needs support. Our country needs a lot of research.
I want to cut you there. I want to cut you there just a minute. Yes. I want to get back to Nalongo. Because Nalongo started a campaign here online about prisons. It's one of the things that has been now getting to people's attention, and really have been so much trying to see how we can mobilize. Like when we're starting, I told you that in the background I tried to reach out, I tried to engage with people, I even tried to reach out to Otafile. He really he sees the message, but even doesn't respond. When you call, doesn't pick. I reached out to Fox Odoi picked. He has been playing me. Last time he told me he's abroad. Yesterday I called him, he told me he's in the country. He's attending parliament in Gulu. And then I tried to call him today, he turned me down. I also reached out to Nyeko. Nyeko sits on the committee of parliamentary committee on human rights and all that. But then these people are not, for me, I always ask, if you're a leader and you really don't check you really don't respond to your messages, you don't qualify to be a leader, or you don't qualify to be a leader. So I reached out to Honorable Bet Namboze, in the past few days, who actually responded, because she had a busy day, and she told me she would try to fix, to see if she can be able to attend. That's why, I'm actually seeing, I sent her a message. She told me she would be busy today, and then I see if she will come. Let's wait and see. Because these are people that have been in parliament. You saw her video was really, strategically, pointing at the people in government. What we have tried to do, even things on social media here, we have tried to engage with prison service, but they really don't want to engage because they really don't have answers. So every time you invite them, every time you reach out to them, I reach out to a lawyer to reach out to them. He told me that those people will tell you to go through, to write a letter, and then a letter will take like a week before being responded. And then when they respond, they'll tell you that you go through the public relations officer and then, write to us officially. And then the whole process can take all those period of time. But Nalongo got a response from Baine, and this is what I want Nalongo to tell us. Nalongo, you have a response from prison's, public relations officer. And that means you really pushed. Tell us, all that kind of campaign that you've been pushing.
For me, owing to the first-hand experience that I had in Luzira Women Prison, the torture, the mental torture, the starvation, the dehydration, all that manner of abuse that we suffered there, charged me to come out and have some action and make a call to everybody. I started on the 1st of August when I had my bail heard at Magistrate Basaja Balava's court, Uganda Road. I asked to tell her of the experience in there. I asked to tell her briefly of what's in there. I summed it all in saying I did not believe, from my experience and what I saw, I did not believe that anybody, that's a place that gets to correct anyone. That's not a place where anybody can reform. That's not a place where anyone can, get positively changed. For me, in my view, I told the court on the 1st at Buganda Road of torture, of ill treatment of prisoners, of denial of the very basic of rights. I told them about, misuse of power by fellow prisoners who are, of course, directly assigned by the persons in uniform to deal with prisoners, with detainees, as though we were really already sentenced to just be killed, to just be tortured until, we either lost life or lost our minds. When I shared, narrated all this to the court, the consequent days, I would get an interview with the NTV, who also shared this, and the Daily Monitor, wrote something about it, and they managed to get a response from Baine, who braggantly and what other word can I use? Like in a very casual manner, in a very arrogantly responded.
Nalongo, we lost you. Nalongo. We can't hear you. If you can hear me, please, we can't hear you.
Let me see what happened.
Okay, there. It's okay there. Now you can go ahead.
Is it okay now?
Yes,
the response was so arrogant, so
sorry, Nalongo, someone is interrupting with your network. We really can't hear you. So we didn't hear the response from Baini, the public relations officer for Uganda prisons. Reason why I tagged them so that they can really know that Ugandans are talking about them. And I like the tweets that have been made. I saw Bring Back Up people made a tweet tagging that Biawas Shaija, so that they can know that the Ugandans are talking about them. That's one of the things, because they're avoiding public debate. So now, if you can hear me, please, we are not hearing you. That's why I'm engaging in your time. When you get back, you'll actually continue from where you stop. So, Ugandans that have been tagging these people, especially, Uganda prisons and Biabashaja, please, go ahead. When Nalongo finish that submission, we'll talk about, the current situation, lack of water and human rights abuses that we have had. Nalongo was at prisons a few days ago with Musili and other people. So you really have to tell us, the current situation, lack of water, and all the stories we have heard about Sami and all the rumors that you have had when you went to prison. So we need to know what's the situation in Rosita, what's the situation about the inmates that we had that were brutalized when they protested against lack of water that was disconnected from 13th of this month. So Nalongo is struggling with network, and I believe she will get back. But Ugandans, to tell you more about this campaign, it's a campaign to save our second home, like Influence called it. It's a campaign to save our second home because 90% of activists in developing countries end up in prison. So the reasons why I also wanted more from opposition MPs was because most of the supporters of opposition end up in jail. So it's not a new thing when you are in opposition and you are jailed. It's not a new thing. So as much as Honorable Betty Nambozo was telling Otafile to clean the prisons, yes, before they clean, they also need to clean right now, because it is us who are going there. You know, it is us who are going there at the moment, at this time. So these guys, it may appear to be far, but you find like for me, in my analysis, you find like most of the prisons in the whole country are filled by opposition members. In Gulu, you have seen that opposition members were remanded for 2 months, just remand, you know. So you find that Ugandan prisons are filled by opposition members, like voices of dissent. Mostly they end up in prisons more than other ordinary Ugandans who don't care about things that are happening in their country. So the fight should be more from the opposition members to see that prisons cleans these cells. Someone will come and say, okay, so we don't want to, like, you are committing crimes. So the only thing, if you want to create a solution, stop committing crimes. But this doesn't, because even in countries that don't have crimes, that have less crimes, the cells, the prisons are good. So it doesn't actually make any sense for someone to say, if you don't want to be jailed, don't commit crimes. Someone will end up in prison. You never know when and how. Some people are accused wrongly. Sometimes you're a victim of circumstance, like things like that. But also remember, there's a Ugandan minister called, Amos Rugolobi. He was taken there last year. And then when he came out from Abati, he said the prisons are sleeping badly, and he said, I would try to do something so that the prisons can be improved. But then that's where he stopped, because he was never taken back. So we are talking about a collective effort, but remembering that, at the moment, you or your friend or your brother or your relative will be there. That's why you open up this conversation. And, someone that has been pushing this campaign on social media is Nana, as you've been hearing. She really pushed. That's why I wanted the leaders, serving leaders to join her and see how they can push this kind of a campaign in the corridors of Parliament. Also, getting a national debate where Ugandans can really talk about the situation. We have seen that Sami is one of the individuals that is now not so much clear of where he is or whether he's even alive or dead, because of being brutalized inside the prison. So there are a lot. Personally, I could say like there are a lot. What influencers talked about really. They have also ever tried to steal my shoes. I'd also got some favors from the ward leaders, like the RPs, because of the campaign. What happens is something like Kule said. Sometimes when they say like you are an activist, normally they don't treat you badly, especially the leaders. It's only there are some fake people, but the ward leaders normally want to treat you well because of what you really stand for. So I want to give opportunity to other people who have been in jail, in any other part of the country. You please come and tell us, what you really think, is the situation and what you think can change. Personally, I would think, the malas should be removed. Whether you have money or not, you should sleep as a prisoner. So if the prisons have to construct for rich prisoners, then they should construct another prison for rich people. But then prisons everyone should sleep as a prisoner, because the malas takes away our spaces. When someone buys a space where he can sleep, then other people, like that space can be occupied by 3 people who are sleeping kukagongo, you know. So it is unfair. So for me, I would believe like if we need to force reforms, the malas should be scrapped off. So yeah, Nalongo, are you able to speak now? Nalongo, are you able to speak? All right, Nalongo, you were still
If you hear me.
Yes, we are still explaining the response from Baini. That's why you dropped off.
Oh my God. So I was speaking to myself all the while.
Yeah.
Baine's response to the information that I brought, not only to the courts of law before Magistrate Basajja Balaba, Her Worship, and the public, his response to them was to my observations, to my experience, was really very arrogant. It was spiteful. It was unthought through. It was, I believe it didn't shock many. This is how the that are in leadership, the people with authority. This is how they behave in this country. So I believe not many people were shocked by his very braggant response on, if she's come from Kololo, prison will be nowhere near her expectations. Did he intend to mean that people that don't live in Kololo, people that don't live in posh places, use the same space they eat from as toilet and bathroom? You can see, okujeregerera bana Uganda. That was really in his response. But we cannot give up. We will keep pushing them to do the right thing, because for me, with the time I spent there, I found that many activities ongoing in Luzira Women Prison are totally inconsistent with human dignity. They are inconsistent with practices of a civilized society. They are inconsistent with civilized behavior. Prisoners' basic rights are totally abused. They are denied. There is direct attacks to the right to health, to mental health, right to life in general. Nobody can experience what women are experiencing in Luzira and get corrected. There is no correction there. There is no intent to correct. It looks like there is intent to torture and totally destroy the minds of the people, the persons in detention.
Now long.
Yes.
On our side, there's a open bathroom there where people openly remove their clothes and they inmates and they shower. Do you also have it on the women's side?
It's literally the same. The ward that I was, ward 1 and the one next to it, there is also one tiny room. It's like at the end of the whole chigango, the whole chi room, the whole chi thing. When you enter the chi box, like the bath, when you enter it at its extreme end is that space that's intended to be both bathroom and toilet. It does not have water constantly. The water would just be somehow, I think, remotely controlled, rationed, turned on very early around 6. Then a few, the stronger, long-serving inmates who are bosses in there, they would pick their jerrycans and fetch water and leave the rest of you with nothing. So by the time the water gets turned off, you haven't got anything, and it's the same water that should be used to pour into the hole that acts as the toilet. So that, the door that should, separate where you sit and sleep and eat with that tiny bathroom space is broken. So literally it's open. Whatever is in that tiny bathroom toilet combined is open to where you are sleeping, where you are eating from, because I never saw any dining space in Luzira. The ward where you sleep is the ward where you sit, is the ward where the women, where you wash up. You do everything. It's the living space, it's the sleeping space, it's the bathroom, it's the toilet. There was no door in between. Ntichiringa chibasi, akalinga ka toilet, era kali directly into your noses when you're sleeping or when you're just sitting or when you're just eating food.
Okay. Now give us a picture of what you think happened when there was no water. You went there, this week. Give us a picture of really what you think happened, because it must, you really, know like how it happens in the incident when there's water, it's like that. So give us a picture now in that.
Oh my God. For me, what actually partly inspired my visit to Luzira 2 days ago, along other human rights, activists here, was, I could not begin to imagine a Luzira women's prison with total disconnection from the water supply. The time we were there, even with that rationed water, with that water that came on and off, that was controlled on and off, it was already a disaster to me. It was already filthy, very filthy conditions. So with water completely gone, oh my God, I had to try and see for myself and hear from the prisoners and hear from the authorities. So that's why 2 days ago, yesterday but one, we went to Luzira, of course, to check on some prisoners. But unfortunately, we cleared. I did at least go past the main gate, cleared and entered before a law that many believe is just selectively used, was just selectively used against me to prevent me from interacting with the prisoners that I had gone to see. When we walked from the main gate, I had cleared, security check was tick. On arrival there, in the visitors room, I would be, removed, isolated, taken away from the rest of the people I had visited with. The
no longer you again off. We can't hear you again. So yeah, if you are speaking, we can't hear you. Nalongo went to prisons, 2 days ago, and went with Musiri, and I think Fresh Baba is also there. Fresh Baba, I think, also went. Fresh Baba told me he's busy, he's shaving people's heads, so he can't speak, but he said his customers are listening. Thank you so much, Fresh Baba, for being there, and send much love to your clients. Thank you so much for fighting for your country. So Ugandans, if you are able to speak and you have anything that you want to speak, especially with prison experience, and the conditions, we said, this condition that you're seeing in Kampala, in Luzira, are worse outside outside Kampala, they are worse. So imagine a colleague that is in Gulu prison. When we are in the space from northern Uganda, someone said that prisoners are kept in Kabong, in Karenga. They are kept in not prisoners. Suspects are kept in Karenga cells in police and wait for other suspects to be arrested. Then they are moved after a week, probably after 2 weeks, and then they're taken to court. So that means if in that state, those are just police transferring, taking you to court. Now imagine what happens in those prisons. Just imagine that. So when we talk about prison reforms, it is so big. It's not only Ruzila, but also it involves outside. Imagine when you're arrested in Gulu. Imagine when you're arrested in those districts. How are you going to survive there? Because they won't transfer you to Kampala. They will charge you from there, and they will detain you from there. They will imprison you from there. So these kind of things we're talking about are very, very important. As an activist, as a Ugandan, like Kule said, your second home is prison. So we need also to clean those second homes so that they can be better for everyone. Whether you are a suspect or a criminal, all people deserve their rights. So, okay, now we'll get back. I want to let you know that this conversation is the government never wanted to participate. That's why prisons have always been avoiding. That's why Nalong even told you that she engaged with prisons, but then they were trying to downplay and then and like just joke around with what she was trying to tell them. But we have been trying to engage. We have also tried to engage the UN representative actually working on prisons and all that. A lady from Zambia. I tried to write, but then I think I needed to be someone bigger than what, so then I can get a response. UN facilitates and protects prisoners. They have their rights, and it's their mandate to see that the prisoners are in good health. But when what happens in Uganda is that no one cares. Not Ugandans, not the government, not even UN. So they just make a report and they just write report that Uganda's prisons are like this and this. You have seen Nalongo engaging with Uganda Human Rights Commission, and you have seen me really lashing at them that they are so useless, because Uganda Human Rights is the first entity that must respect and must fight for rights of Ugandans. So Nalongo, please go ahead and your fights. Yes. You had many fights around.
Yes, and we tried, like I told you, I tried to access prisons. They used this crazy law that if I was there as an inmate a few weeks ago, I cannot access again until 3 months later. I jokingly told this lady that I am, as a rights defender, as a social worker, I am right within the line of my duty, and this is duty that I'm volunteering to do. And she said, well, today you came as a visitor to inmates, and that it's not going to be allowed. If you should want to come back as a social worker, you'll have to write to the she said head office or headquarters. But anyway, I could already see there was a truck that had been driven in with a tank that had some water. Women carrying all manner of plastics, basin, jerrycan, were all trying to catch a drop from that, the leaking pipe from that tank. For me, I think that it must be hell. It must have been hell for these past few weeks for prisoners to have no water at all. Prior to the prisons announcing that press release on how they said national water had disconnected them, we had heard reliably that activist Samuel Ekanya, along other prisoners who dared to ask about the water crisis, had been pounced on and beaten by not just prisons but also military. They were beaten so badly that it was rumored one of the beaten people might have passed. This is what we heard from some prisoners when we were there yesterday but one. We were also told that activist Ekanya, commonly known as Sammy, was, after being beaten to pulp, transferred to some place they hadn't yet confirmed or known. So you can see that activists trying to stand up for one another, even from within the confinements of prison, are still treated like they don't matter. All these men did were, try to bring to the notice of the authorities that take them in the prison the crisis, the difficulties they were experiencing from having no water. But instead of being listened to, instead of solutions being found for them, they were not protected at all. They were just beaten very, very brutally. And yes, there was rumor that one of them might not have made it. So we left prison. Of course, me banned from visiting the women's prison. I haven't given up, because as of today, I managed to pass by Uganda Human Rights Commission, the regional office at Naguru, where my intent was to invite the head of that office and her team, next week, I had mentioned to them the 4th, next week, that we have a general visit as human rights defenders, as well as them as the body that heads human rights of all Ugandans. I had gone, to have them invited to this thinking, to this idea that we go to the prisons and ask to inspect, look at particularly wards 1 and 2 and maybe any other wards, and have an on-the-ground picture of what's going in there. So we decide together, if these situations are really fit for any human beings to be corrected under, I can't say I was very surprised. The head of that office, maybe I should withhold the names as of now, she was very uneasy with me. She was panicky. She told me, I've just come out of a meeting. I'm conducting a meeting, but no, we can't take your letter. This is the wrong jurisdiction for it. I said then, which is the right one? She said, head office. I said, would you please forward it for me? Because for me, as a concerned citizen of this country and a human rights defender, I have invited you so that you head this team of human rights defenders, you the people in charge of our rights, lead us to those spaces for the betterment of the living conditions of people in detention. She said, no, and I quote, no. You have addressed this to the wrong person. You must go to the head office. I didn't really protest that, but I just wondered, could you do that for me? Because if it's addressed to you as head of the regional office, would you pass the message to whoever your seniors are with the same suggestion that human rights defenders, along with you people that have the mandate to protect and uphold human rights of Ugandans, lead us to Ward 1 women prison, to Ward 2 women prison, to the sick bay, to the medical facility there, to the kitchen. Can we have at least a group of people concerned with rights of persons in detention see if Nana and other people that are saying these things they experience are lying or if they are speaking the truth. She didn't give me any time. I mean, in her behavior, she actually couldn't wait for me to leave. She literally, omuganda inzo gamba nti yansenze nakati, nansenda senda bwatyo, please leave. This is the wrong jurisdiction. These are the words she used. You have addressed this letter and concern to the wrong place. Go to the head office. Does that surprise any Ugandan? It only emphasizes that they are sleeping on the job, or like what you already said, MP, that they don't want to interact with Ugandans. They are afraid of us. They're either afraid of us or I don't understand. They won't give anybody the space. An honorable member of parliament would be dying to have this opportunity to hear it from her constituents, from his constituents, from voters, what's going on. But, out of their actions, they are totally uninterested. I've given you a very good example that I put in my own valuable time. I introduced myself, you guys. I told you, a business entrepreneur. I have a lot of personal work to do. When I put in this voluntary work to make movements about the rights of Ugandans, not just the rights of Ugandans, but also Ugandans within detention, in spaces, confined spaces of the law, I am not doing this I'm doing this for the good of this country, for the betterment of society. So people get corrected and come out to be useful people to society. But you see that the body that is heading human rights in a country, the body that's, is obligated to do this, I give them a letter. Look, as human rights defenders, you are invited along with us on the 4th to visit Luzira Women Prison, seek, talk with the authorities, see how we can access the spaces to really assess the situation. Are these spaces safe for any human life? I told the court already that the right to life of prisoners is under great threat. The right to their mental health is threatened directly from the torture. Torture is not just when you get beaten, nebakukaza, taja. No, torture is in every manner of the activities going on in Luzira. Many activities in Luzira, I repeat, are inconsistent with human dignity. They are inconsistent with actions of civilized societies. Something must be done. Rule of law, we must remember that, there must be a minimum amount of respect and dignity accorded a human being just because they are human beings. Every human being.
I think that this discussion also has you tackled the human rights point there, where also Council Aaron has just come in. Reasons why we invited Council Aaron here was to really educate us about the rights of inmates. Do inmates have rights? Do inmates have rights also? Because Ugandans are listening there. Do inmates Abasibe, do they have rights? Because in Uganda it's prisoners don't have completely any right. When you go inside, you lose all your rights. The only thing maybe you can say, Also, Nana said, right to life is also threatened, but that's the only thing, like, I think they only live with you. So, Council Aaron, I've sent you a mic. You need to, educate us and educate Ugandans. Do prisoners have rights? And give us some of the rights that prisoners have. I think that's where we will go. As, Council Aaron comes in. All right. Okay. Council Aaron is there. So, this, you found us when you're talking directly about that.
So, are you saying that I speak?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay. So, I'm very sorry I missed most of it, but at least I heard from Nana, and I understand the topic. I'm not feeling well. I'm part of the victims of the flu wave that is sweeping across Kampala. But, yeah. So, prisoners have rights. That is a fact, and it's beyond debate. The only right that is directly circumscribed by the fact of imprisonment is the right to personal liberty. So detention by its very nature is inconsistent with personal liberty, and that's why the Constitution specifies conditions under which it can happen, and normally it has to happen under a warrant of court. There must be a court order for you to be detained legally, except detention within 48 hours by police. But even that pre-trial detention must be in accordance with the law, and it must not go beyond 48 hours, and even before 48 hours, it must happen with dignity, the concept of human dignity that Nana was talking about. You should not be slapped, tortured, frog jumped under the guise of any kind of detention, whether it is pre or post-detention. Once you are in detention, let's say the worst case scenario, you have been convicted, the court specifies a sentence, and that is normally a custodial sentence that keeps you in prison. Otherwise, there are sentences that don't require imprisonment, such as non-custodial sentences, such as community service, such as fines, such as suspended sentences. So it's not even a must that whenever you are convicted and sentenced, you must still be locked up. No. If you're going to be locked up, the court specifies that you're going to be locked up for a number of years. It can't be ambiguous. There must be a period. Even when you behave much, much better, you can benefit from remission up to a third of the sentence you have been given. Let's say you don't benefit from remission and you are just going to serve your full sentence. You're supposed to eat. You have a right to food. You're supposed to get water. You're supposed to sleep. You're not supposed to be deprived of sleep, as that would amount to torture. And torture is not a sentence. And no one is allowed to be tortured, whether by sentence or otherwise. So you still have your right to human dignity. You still have a right to medical attention, partly because you're a human being and partly because you have a right to access, you have a right to health that the state has to maintain. You have a right to complain administratively of any ill treatment. Let's say at the hands of wardens, you're supposed to complain to the senior prisons management, but if there are other human rights violations, you can still bring them to the ordinary courts, or even you are supposed to, of course, also engage the Uganda Human Rights Commission. The Uganda Human Rights Commission has a unique mandate when it comes to prisons' conditions, because they are supposed to do regular visits unannounced and access all detention facilities. And the reason for that is that they can even order your release once you are in either illegal detention or in detention that contravenes human rights law, which is part of our constitution. But this specific tenure of Human Rights Commission under Wangadia is a lost period, because they are not doing their work, and the chairperson, they have a leader at the helm who is basically clueless about what to do regarding human rights and is actively fighting human rights instead of promoting them, and she takes sides with the violators, often apologizing and defending the violators instead of defending and speaking up for victims of human rights. So once you're detained in any detention, even if you have a sentence hanging over your head, you maintain all rights except those ones that are circumscribed by the sentence, or those ones that are naturally incompatible with the sentence. So we said the right that is specifically prohibited is personal liberty. You cannot move out of that detention. No. But within the detention facility, you are entitled to exercising, you're entitled to live with dignity, you're entitled to be informed. In the modern prisons, people walk away with the better people, because the point of imprisonment is rehabilitation. It is not to damage you. It is not to torture you. It is to ensure that you are a better person, and part of this is skilling, education. Your right to education should not be compromised just because you are in detention. You are supposed to be accessing internet, accessing news, and you should be able to study abroad because of that internet, or some facilities, they ensure that there are education programs. You are supposed to become a lawyer while you're in detention if you are interested in becoming one, or you could become any other profession that can be. I don't see why you should not learn, for example, coding while you're in prison. Why you should not study about the environment. And that's good, not bad for a country, because when you have a better citizenry, people leave prison to build their countries, to make them better. Some of the most important people in the world have been imprisoned, and if they had been killed or otherwise maltreated, it would have been unfortunate. Of course, it was unfortunate that there were maltreatment at Robben Island, and one of the principal rules for prisoners are called the Robben Islands. They are UN minimum standards for treatment of prisoners regarding medication, regarding food, regarding even discipline. Discipline should not entail more restraint than is necessary to ensure that there is a discipline, and torture is not part of discipline. To be clear, even primary schools are not supposed to be given corporal punishments, but it's unfortunate that in Ugandan prisons, some people are subjected to corporal punishments, caning, as though they were animals. No, that has no, the country has long moved from that kind of punishment or disciplining, and if you see it anywhere, just know that it's a form of torture and illegal. I think that's how I can summarize it, except one point: even the right to vote should be respected in prisons, even by Ugandan jurisprudence. It's just that there's a lot of impunity across the country, and in the prisons are not an exception. You cannot. The military dictatorship we have outside of prison also permeates inside prison. I know, as a lawyer who has worked with many inmates, that there are detention centers where people are picked at night by security agencies, beaten, tortured, and returned. So I discuss this from an awareness and insight of, I know the legal regime is one thing, the legal entitlements are one thing, the human rights framework is one thing, and the lived reality of prisoners is another thing. Now, people have different stories. There are those who leave prison with good stories, including some peaceful protesters. But the good treatment that should be for all inmates, it shouldn't be for some, because that would gender on discrimination, that would gender on uneven-handedness, and that would be administrative injustice. If there are some prisoners who are treated well and others who are maltreated, of course I know that if you have money in Ruzira or any other prison, you don't get the same kind of treatment as the wretched of the earth. That's unfortunate, but the reality that's there. What is important is that prison facilities ensure that the minimum standards ensure a dignified life for a prisoner, so that at the end of the day, they leave prisons rebuilt, rehabilitated, and better citizens to contribute to the development of the country, rather than people who are damaged, who have been numbed, who are deteriorating mentally or broken. That would be unfortunate. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Council. Thank you so much for educating us. Thank you very, very much. There are a lot of things that you said, actually, personally, I didn't know. So I learn always a lot. Thank you so much, Council. And because you're having flu, I'll just keep you there for some time. So I won't engage you more until something else comes in. But the concept of rights of prisoners has been explained by Council Aaron, and I love that. Thank you very, very much. When you were speaking, there was something also that was coming, and after you also explained the right to vote, because if you say like we have rights, we have all rights apart from that one they take from us. I don't know how you explained it, but apart from that one right, but then that means we also must enjoy all other rights. That's why in Nambo's submission last in that video, she was actually calling for a right also for marital right in prisons, like. Even prisoners should be given facilities where they are supposed to engage with their wives, with their partners. So, and then these are things that also happen in developed countries. That means these are rights that are observed, and it's very much understandable what Council Aaron is explained to us. So, okay, Nalungo, you are really moving. So please, you have to get back. Clever, you have 2 minutes. Clever, are you able to speak?
Okay, greetings to you all, and I'm glad to be here on this platform for such a wonderful conversation and discussion for the help of our brothers and sisters who are in prison. I hope everyone can hear me very well.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
So within a small period of time, I'm just talking about what I can experience in prison, because me personally, I've never been in prisons, but I've ever been in the so-called torture chambers. I think these things are different, but as for now, as we talk, even the prisons have been turned into torture chambers, because there are things that are happening there that people should know, and we should fight as much as we can using all techniques and modes to help our brothers and sisters who are there. Of course, in prison, there is denial of treatment, because we even have fear now. If they take you in prison, like for example, my sister Nalongo went there, had a very severe pain. I've heard of that story. They wanted to inject her. But right now, even if the injection is true that it is okay, it has no problem, you fear it, because we face that thing of fear now. There are people who come at night, they pick up people, they inject them because they have interest in them by the government because of the pressure we are putting on them. So like it or not, the denial for treatment is the common thing in the prisons. It is there. Number two, looking on the same thing of treatment, I heard of a post that I saw somewhere that the feces were full of the toilets of the prisons, and who are supposed to clean those things? They are the prisoners themselves. Now, what comes out of cleaning those things? There is no water. Of course, we have to use prisoners. They have to use their hands. I don't think they give them clear gloves. So, of course, the outcome of that is infections. If three people who are outside, if you can get infections and you fail to treat yourself because of the price of the tabs and everything you're supposed to use in treatment, how about those people in prison? Really, we cannot spare that. Those people are facing a very big problem. So medication is totally poor. Safety, because people who have got people who can at least visit them and they are well off, they can help them with some things. They could have got chances of helping others, but they cannot because even the very people who are leading the prisons, the prison officers, they are totally poor. So they are the ones stealing things of the people they have been brought through, help them. Like, how can you keep the parts of a prisoner that have been brought to help her? And then you take them. And that's why you see people are facing blood coming out of their private parts because they have no help. There's no way they can help themselves in that period. That's just that time of periods, you know. So that is very ashamed. And number three, of course, there is promotion of sodomism because if you have a washroom and we are supposed to be there like 100 people bathing at the same time, like as if they are promoting sodomism in prisons intentionally, because how can that happen? You are moving around, you are totally naked, and then you are using the same washroom. Of course, you know what is happening there. You come out when you are mentally perturbed, like your brain is totally perturbed because of that.
There is
There is
an open washroom in Maction Bay. Open washroom, like water like splashed from like two angles. It's like you call it what? A kiraro constructed kiraro, just with a roof, and then cement one so water from so people like guys will like shower from there, open ringer, So guys, I don't know, the council will talk about that. Isn't that really a violation of rights of inmates? I really need some answers. Anyway, can you please conclude?
Yeah, of course, that is a violation of that. So, but for me, I think before we even talk of the prisons and attack them bianically, we have to combine them with the judiciary. So, good of it that Council Aaron is here. Let him help us and enlighten us. How are we supposed to go over those judicial officers and then go bianical with them so that we can force them and then visit those places and know what is happening there, because it is the judicial officers that are sending people in prison. Now, how can you send someone into prison and you cannot follow what is happening there? And they're getting the alerts. When I'm about to conclude, talking about how reaching out to those prison officers like the Garasaijas, the Baines, those people, if we call them, they deny access to us. But I think what we should do, we should visit those media platforms, televisions and what. We talk to those people. They put their programs and they invite those people on the programs. They put their open calls so that we can call those people. At least they hear those things from us direct, because calling them, they have denied us any ways of reaching out to them. Talking about the thing of our brother Sami, is now nowhere to be seen and known. We used to do something as way back for last year that's forcing those people on how to bring those people out. We could at least put out a fake breaking news that the guy is been rumored dead. So when you pressure and move that cause that he's dead all over social media, at least those people could be forced to bring him out, because we could say bring him out either dead or alive. But for us, we insisted that we have had news that the guy is dead. So when they hear that news, they are forced to bring him out. I don't know whether that one will work for us, but that's what we used to do to help many of our comrades, and it worked for us. For now, I'll submit. Then.
Thank you so much, Clever. Of course, I will give Nalongo. I also want to ask Nalongo something close. They've asked the Council Aaron what the judiciary can do. I don't know if he's able to reply now.
Okay, I can reply before Nalongo comes in. The judiciary is part of justice law and order sector, and they are supposed to do routine visits to prisons and other places of detention. And I think one of the judicial officers alluded that they would be doing so. But to trigger them, you need to document all these issues and let them draw their attention to the administrators, such as the principal judge, the chief justice, so that they know the things that are bothering, that are besetting the inmates, and what they should look out for. Of course, once those visits are organized, even the prison officers will put up their best faces. But if judicial officers are keen and interact with inmates in a free environment, then they will be able to elicit the truth or be part of it from the inmates. So document and formally complain to the leadership of the judiciary, and the judiciary will visit and establish. Thank you very much. And also, if they are even egregious, more grave things, then the individual victims can prefer suits under the Human Rights Enforcement Act for those violations. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Council Aaron. Thank you so much. By the way, after Nana, you'll please tell us what the status of Sami, because you are his lawyer. I followed everything. You really updated us everything about Sami. I know you must be we need to know, since you are his lawyer, you need to tell us what is going on. Yes, Nana, please, Nalongo. I want to ask you, do we have organization that protects, defends and fights for rights of prisoners in Uganda? Do we have those organizations? And yeah.
Thank you for this question. I will thank you also, our human rights lawyer, Aaron Kiza. You've been so busy with our cases. We don't know when you rest. You must have gotten those flus even from prisoners, because you're always at courts. We thank you very, very much. I thank the previous speaker also, Clever, for what you highlighted on. And you did remind me of something. A woman in uniform, in brown uniform, one morning walked into the wards. Of course, they came as a group. They always come, they are loud. When they come to open, I told you earlier that they lock us into those things, those holes with padlocks. So you hear the padlocks and they bang them very, very violently. They bang on the doors like the people in there are not people. So she walked in and women were coughing. She announced, "Mwena aberwaza. Temukimanyi fete wano tewali dagala mutume abantu bewamwe babaletere dagala. Government yamwe terina dagala." So some of the inmates, once in a while they can playfully reply, but Mukuru, you don't allow our people to even bring the dagala itself. You don't allow money. How should we do that? Who will buy the medicine for us? And she's like, Mutumewa Mukuru babagulire. There are open ways, of course, of corruption. The canteens that are inside prisons, I do not know. It's an orderly way to have somewhere where people can access stuff and buy it. But when they force that every little thing must come out of there, and yet they seem very ill-stocked. For example, the week we were there, some of the orders made by my fellow prisoners, you order, I'll need water, I'll need this and that. They came to the end of their stay in prison before they ever got those orders. So you wonder, where will that money go? And of course, when it's your day for court, you're too excited. You might not be interested in following up to go pick your money or go claim funds that you had.
For me, I left there my mutwalo.
A lot of those small mutwalos are left by so many of us because in a way you're not interested in getting things that take weeks to arrive. The visitors that I ever got there came with things and all the things were refused, from toothpaste to soap to everything. They told them they had to buy from the canteen. In the canteen you cannot buy directly. You have to first acquire an exercise book, put in the list, wait for days. There are so many things done in there that if you had an emergency, you're hungry, you have an ulcer, you have what, and you just want to sip on some milk, you could die before it gets to you. The dispensary, the health facility in there, announcing directly to women that it's not your day, we don't have medicine. One of us fell sick and they went there very early in the morning. They stayed there until 11, until they left out of, being frustrated and tired. There was nothing. Another group had gone. They were told the day was only for people with HIV. Even those with HIV, when they went, they didn't find what they needed to get from there. So one morning, after I had been forced by the Katikiro, simply because I had had a breakdown one night, I just I sat in that space. It was like, I think my second night, just sitting up all night because my hip was hurting, everywhere was hurting, my limbs were hurting from lying on that cement floor and sitting on it all day. I let out. I looked at the environment in which I was, finding myself, looking at women, 100 plus, conditioned to believe that this is what they had to endure simply because they are suspects or they are convicts or they are something, or they are on the journey for correction. I didn't cry because I'm a brave woman, but I sobbed. I had tears from straight my heart. Just looking at women lying down like animals. My attempt to lie in between two women. I already shared something that I at one part had menstrual blood of another woman all over me because we are too close to each other. They have no pads. I broke down because it was unbelievable that so many otherwise wonderful people that just need to be corrected, people that just need their cases to be heard and they go home and resume normal life, that they would get conditioned to be huddled in such a tiny space, body to body, to just be there like they don't deserve anything better. For me, that broke me down. That made me weep for this country. That made me weep for every woman that was lying in there, coughing like they didn't matter at all, and being informed direct, there is no medicine for you. You better send for your next of kin to bring you that. We all know that they wouldn't allow medicine carried from outside. So it's like mockery all the way. Luzira Women Prison is not a place that's fit or consistent with standards of correction. It's not at all. And for me, my heart breaks even more today, having attempted to invite Human Rights Commission for an impromptu visit, for them to see the things we are talking about, for them to assess the situation. When the woman, sent me away, said, no, just go away, just go to head office or something. I told her, okay, can I have access to the said reports that you remember earlier on we had tweeted about it, and somebody from there came and replied, we try, we give, that they give recommendations, we have reports.
They give annual reports.
Yeah. So I said, can I just have a look for example, any report at all, be it this year or last year? She said, with a lot of disinterest, please go, all of it, go to the head office. Me, that's not my jurisdiction. I said, but this is the regional office, and it's the one that I've been able to access.
The reason I asked you why, like you're a human rights defender, and I want to ask you, you must
organizations.
Know this. Do you have organization that really because if there's no, that means Ugandans need to create. We need to create organization that fights for rights of prisoners. If there's nothing
to tell you about the reaction of, for example, the head of the regional office today was to try and say, since the head of this state one day yakwata kunkona aba UN human rights na abagobe Uganda. Now he said that Uganda Human Rights Commission it's an.
Oh God, that is very sad. No longer we can't hear you, but really your point is so painful. Like if someone from the Uganda Human Rights Commission can actually say like that.
Do you hear me now? Now?
Yes. What did she say?
Yes. What happened about 2 years ago, some or less? The head of state decided that we had a body, UN Human Rights, the Uganda. You remember that?
Yes,
there was a human rights body from the UN that was sent away. A scandal. As human rights defenders, that can be termed as a scandal. And the head of state cited reasons. He already has Human Rights Commission handling all the business of human rights. You ask if there are human rights organizations.
Uganda Human Rights Commission, that is which can't even kill a fly.
Yes, wait please. So your question, if we have any organizations that should defend and uphold and Oksoso as a rights Zabana Uganda, and in this case Ezaba Sibe. Yes, in the normal way we should. We have thousands of NGOs here, and all of them in their objectives, they are mentioned objectives. The very first lines are human rights. I mean, how do we be here asking ourselves if there are any human rights bodies that can concern themselves with the welfare of prisoners? We have so many NGOs. Since I left prison, you have seen me tag UN Women, FIDA Uganda, UONET, whatever net, this and that women this. I have tagged AU, I have tagged the East African Parliament, I have tagged Parliament, I have tagged UOPA, the women thing within the Parliament here. Have you ever seen any response from them? None of them will respond, of course.
I've seen they have never responded. They have never responded.
The only response I ever got, I think, from one women organization was to render me, are you silly? I mean, if they asked, they even wrote it in vernacular. If you had done your research, they wrote research in research. The ones we have around, some of them are good. Others are becoming as irrelevant and as braggart as the state that's making these violations in the first place. I have severally tagged UN Women. I was pleased to an extent to see UN Women arranging workshops with the prisons. We saw tweets from Uganda prisons and UN Women, how they had, sat to talk, violence, blah, blah, extremism in prison.
Just workshops.
Workshops. And somebody commented that the cost.
No longer you're off. I saw that tweet by UN. Let me just look for it. Now you're off.
Do you hear me now?
Yes, please.
If you hear me now, yes, I can tell you that there are many organizations that should directly concern themselves with the reports we are bringing from prison. The other day we told you that the men prisoners had told us that there was an order for them not to use the toilet because of the water crisis. I came out, I tweeted it raw. The way I heard it from the prisoners is the way I tweeted about it. Nobody will openly talk about it. No organization, apart of course from a few that silently, act and maybe go there, but they seem to shy away from associating, of course, with defenders like myself, That's why I've told you, I've tagged UN Women, you've tagged that. Then they have workshops where they don't think even it's useful to hear from ex-prisoners, to hear from the inmates themselves, to hear from some of us that are still on charges that may actually take us back to prison. So the goodwill in between there, it cannot be understood. What UN Women is defending, if, the workshops are very good. For me, my comment on those tweets was, workshops are very good. These boardroom conversations are very good. What would be best is for you to go in Ward 1 and 2 and whatever in Luzira Women and look for, see it for yourselves what we are saying and decide, are these the standards UN Women should have any reports about? Are these the standards that Uganda Human Rights Commission should comfortably write reports about Uganda, prisons? It's not an easy question to answer. If any organizations, human rights or whatever, NGOs, can concern themselves with the rights of persons in detention, they are nowhere. They are not really visible. The only response I ever got, like I told you, yali yakunjerega nti oba wakola research wanditegedde that we were involved in achieving bail for 2 of those women. I think it must have been somebody either affiliated with either FIDA or UNET that replied to me like that. Like their reply was disrespectful in nature. It was to tell me I'm not informed. And then they concluded by telling me to take my anger to state which has meted this pain upon me. This came from a woman in a women's organization.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw that. But these things we have been talking about, really organization that, standing in for rights of prisoners. And then someone called Crystal in the comment section said, I think we need, she said, I think we should organize an exhibition about prisons. It is worse, and Agora is there. So Agora, think about that, because it is too much, guys. It is too much. It is too much. Council Aaron, as Nalong comes back, Council Aaron, please give us the status about, Sami.
Unfortunately, I don't know. Sami now has a family lawyer who is handling called Ishak. And because of
the mechanisms, where are the people on the groundwork? I mean, they do not all ask.
Now you have been off. Sorry, Council Aaron, please go ahead.
What I was saying is that there is a family lawyer called Ishak who is handling Sam, and because of the many clients we have, where there is a family lawyer, we tend to let them do the work and ask us for any assistance they need. So currently, I'm a bit off that matter and following it from the sidelines, but there is a lawyer, Ishak. I will share his number so that you follow up with him. But yeah, I don't know where Sam is now, and I know he faced torture at police, at CPS, and I am following with concern that he has also now disappeared. And the only reason he's out is because he couldn't fulfill one of the, rather he was still in Brazil, he couldn't fulfill one of the prison conditions relating to a passport, I think, which was confiscated in the process of his arrest. So many things mixing up there. But unfortunately, the state confiscates your passport and then makes it as a condition for your bail, and then you can't get bail, and so on and so forth. Very sad developments, but the lawyer now in personal conduct will have more details. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Council, for that. I thought you're still in charge. Probably we'll get more about from that lawyer. If Agora has been following also, maybe they will let us know if, what's his status. Someone I think it was Ivan, and also before, he was suggesting that we announce him dead, so that they can present him alive. That is one of the, tricks, techniques that you can use to demand for someone that, John Bosco Chibalama has been, missing for over 5 years. In many polls and he has been announced dead, but these people have never produced him. They have never produced him. So, Council, you animated. You want to say something?
So that cannot work in every situation, and it shouldn't be overplayed because then it loses its essence. In this case, someone needs to try to visit him at Rosella because that's where he was committed, and the prison officials will give an explanation why. It would be good if his lawyer went and tried to visit. So he would talk to him if he's there, or they would tell him where he is and why where he is, so that they access him. If he's in illegal detention, there are methods that deal with illegal detentions, legal interventions. So the starting point is try to visit him there, because has anyone tried to visit him and they told him he's not there, then we have an official position against which to respond. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Brian, please, before you come, let's listen from Nalong, and she concludes. Nalong, we had dropped off, so
yes, for me,
you actually.
My conclusion, therefore, will be the organizations you mentioned, human rights. We have so many organizations whose logos all bear human rights this, human rights that. I want to remind them that rights of persons in detention are rights and they should be protected and upheld. Next to, if our honorable member of parliament from Mukono had been here, I had intended to tell her, to ask her, to appeal to her that they, particularly as women, pay a visit to women prison Luzira. As politicians who always find themselves also, behind cells and what, luckily, well, when they go there, they have enough money to pay for special places to sleep. But let them think of the detained who do not have as much money as they have. I had intended to ask Madame Bachireke to for action for the detained, action for persons in detention all over Uganda. Ngaba MP balambula amakomera bagalambule balaba basibe we basula balabe mmere gye balya. MPs batuleke Luzira balabe mmere eweebwa abasibe. Food to people that have a right that must not be interfered with to food and nutrition. Balabe bintu bye baba wange mmere. For me, I will conclude by telling all of you, well-intentioned people, Ugandans and human rights defenders, do not give up. No matter how many times we get repelled or arrested, these illegal detentions we suffer, let's not give up. Engage NGOs, engage foreign missions, engage members of parliament, engage leaders at all levels, engage our lawyers to share what needs to be shared for possible solutions to the dire situation of, detention facilities in Uganda. Tuteekateeka okukyala led by Human Rights Commission, no matter how much they dodge us. Please, all of you here should engage Uganda Human Rights Commission. Ekulemberemu a visit to Luzira. We need MPs to tell us, is it policy? Abasibe okusula ku ttaka wansi ku kiseminti bear. Twagala tumanye budget. Ziriweza prisons. Zirina kugula ki? If prisoners are wearing torn dresses, if prisoners do not have access to clean water, we want to be explained to by our honorable members of parliament. So, thank you very much, for this space, for having organized it. Honorable member of parliament, nze nsaba mumutuseeko obubaka bwange abuulire eggwanga oba abuuze on behalf of us ababadde wano. Is it policy abasibe okutokyaringibwa okutreatingibwa mu ngeri etasaanidde ng'ensolo ne babula eddagala emmere embi ne babula amazzi bwe bakyogerako ne babakuba okubapakira mu bihol ne babanga ebisolo? Please ask that for me, and I would like to conclude like that. I will thank very, very much again our human rights lawyer Aaron Kiza. Toko abambi totukowa. But personally, I'll have court again on the 10th next month. I call all of you to stand with us. Solidarity, please. Activists, prison visits, that's a sign of solidarity. Please press for Sammy's whereabouts. Please do not stop pushing Human Rights Commission to give us answers on the state of prisons in Uganda. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nalongo. Thank you so much, Nalongo. By the way, you really inspire us to really fight and stand. I've seen and I've really love how you have engaged Uganda Human Rights Commission and Uganda prisons. Singa tusobola okukwatira wamu, we can really push these people. Council Aaron has given us something here that yes, we may not now. The only thing to know where Sammy is to visit him, because visits take place from Tuesday to Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So you go and ask to, like, you want to see Sammy. So I've got council's number. I have it. If anyone wants to get more information about, you can really reach out. I have that number, Council Ajim Pereza. So that's something that we can do. We go, visit and ask to meet, to visit Sammy. So that means they don't have anything to explain, because he has a right for visitation as Council Yatu Government. Prisoners have many rights. Only right yataina, yakweta, yakufulma wabweru, but other rights are azina. So, he has also right for visitation. That's why they put from Tuesday to Thursday. So we can really do that. And then, if they cannot produce him, that means it becomes a crisis and a problem for them. Brian.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yeah, well, this is Brian. And as I introduce myself, I'm Sammy's longtime friend. We've been together for over 18 years. Yeah, well, Sammy, right now, actually, I last visited him today. He was transferred to Chitalia Min-Max prison, and is prisoner number 514.
Repeat that number.
Prisoner 514 in Chitalia Min-Max prison.
Okay.
Well, Sammy, the night he was taken there, actually there was some kind of riot at Murchison Bay due to lack of water. And the press release of National Water declared that they had not had water for the, around from the 18th of August. But actually, Sammy told me they didn't have water for over a month. The first riot, which was in Murchison Bay, was when they told Mr. Byabasaija that Musao is called Musao. I'm not certain about the name, but actually prisoners were dying. Ever since Sammy was taken to Murchison Bay, 6 prisoners died. And all these prisoners visited the sick bay to see the doctor. When the doctor checked them, he told them none was sick and they didn't have that serious injuries or sickness. And everyone who was told that you go back to the cell, later on he was found dead. And the last person to die, actually they were on foreign. They went to see them. They were on foreign. They always count them.
He died, yafira ku foreign.
Yafira ku foreign. Bamugamba agenda alaba omusawo. When he reached the hospital, ku sick bay ne bamugamba tolina nnyo bulwadde bukuluma. Go back. Yali akutabye ku foreign we yasigala n'afa. So Sammy n'agamba at least omusawo. Amanye erinnya ly'omusawo, he must resign. Kwolwo Sammy bamuteekako abakuumi twagenda omukyalira. We took over 4 hours. Naine mukwano gwange kuno omu kuba yampise okuliza gwe nangamba tulina live gye tuliko ku X okojje. Then twabera over 4 hours nga tebamukiriza muntu yenna mulaba. The night we yekalakasa adimi we yateekayo post cause yafuna information. Then ndinaga nti Sammy sawazi bamukutte bakuba emigga abamilitary. By the way, Sammy bamumenya omukono n'ebigere bakwatirira okutambula. As we speak now, on si propaganda, these are facts. Yasinga bakiriza nti okutambula ne kamera zigende mu prison. Kumini Max Sammy jali. Mulwadde bamulese eddagala cause Sammy had to get even treatment back in Qatar naye nga passport yabula. Ne amakenda agabaddamira agambeezaawo agamulesezza eruzira. Right now talina ddagala bamukuba yazimba omukono bamukonakoona mu mutwe ne saazi n'awonyera bamukwatira bukwatirizi okutambula. Ono si propaganda yenna asobola kumanda agende ku Minimax ajja kusangayo Saamu ng'ali mu mbeera mbi. Cause I'm from there today. The visitation for Minimax is Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Passport gye bagamba cause once abadde atambuza documents, actually I have Mr. Kato's number, only Kiza Aaron's number is the one I don't have. Nene Mr. Kato namugamba kuna ndoza yali ku legal team eyo. Ne mugamba Sammy are reporting at the loss of his national ID and passport to all the Kampala police station in April. I was with him. It is in Papula Jeziri, ne copy no replacing ID Papula bya Nira byonna weebiri. Even the ID yagifuna gundi yali June around 17th or 18th. We are funila national ID replacement. Era twasasula sente mukoti bali bamuwadde bail, the 500 cash bill twazisasula, ne tubagamba ne passport tagina cause just yayaga kwa applying nga yafuna ID, then they insisted bagamba passport yetaagibwa. Kati then babadde bagala kuteekayo era kabagitaddeyo cause mbadde sina confirming nga naye nga badde asaba review, badde mu kubanga twateeka search warrant ready batuuka okola search warrant ya conducting wa makage era ku documents ezimogerako they only got the national ID yokai yaliwo. There was no passport in the house. N'olwekyo embeera eyo Saamu gyalimu naye nga prisons embeera abasibe gye bali mumbi. Mbi nnyo kozi labo ogenda n'oyogerako naye agamba embeera mbi. Waliwo ne kavidiyo kenda bakasatulatinga mbu abasibe kwa tukamukomera musajja watu n'abuuza nti abasibe tebalina rights zaabwe nti balina rights. N'agamba naye omuntu ali muno tamanyi kifa bweru ku nsi ye n'abagulira ka TV era mwekali kati mukomerako balabiramu oli kozi I saw some video wala bagize musimai twakulabye ku TV there some video eri kutambula ya full figure with some other noob guy. Ninge embeera ya Sammy kyoba omanya kimu Mr. Kiza Aaron ne host embeera sinungi. Sammy baamukuba nnyo. Yeetaaga medical treatment ye ng'omuntu tali fine.
The bigambo bimpeddeko, so I have really nothing to say about that. Tanso Aaron, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. He reminds me of the unfortunate date I visited Kakwenza in prison, and I mean, I don't want to. It's unfortunate that these things happen in this country, but yes, unfortunately, torture goes on in prison for some people, especially those who are critics of the state. And you should, if I remember very well, Byabashija is among the sanctioned people who cannot go to. There are some sanctions against Byabashija, if I remember very well. And that torture issue is one of the problems. It's unfortunate that he's still at the head of prisons and he's still repeating the same mistakes that have made him a pariah internationally. He's responsible because he's the primary instrument through whom the state channels its repression and spreads it across prison institutions in Uganda. He needs to come out and apologize for that misconduct and put a stop to that illegality, uncivilized illegality that is adulterating our prisons. As for Sammy, I know that I'd forgotten actually that Yes, George Musisi, another human rights lawyer, was supposed to visit, among others, Sami in Chitarja. I think I had forgotten that, but now that he mentioned Chitarja, now I remember. I had a discussion with George Musisi on Sami situation, and he was supposed to visit in Chitarja this week. I will get in touch with him to see you also, and also to tell him the new condition and what. And together we shall see what we can do about the situation. Legally, today is Saturday. That means any intervention happens starting Monday, but we are also overwhelmed. And also, of course, we are also cash strapped, but we do what we can within our means. Thank you very much. I see there is someone called Erian Nawenwe. He's also among the listeners. You should also listen to him. He's a serious human rights defender who has witnessed several or some of these incidents we grapple with as human rights lawyers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Council. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Brian. Also, please, Area, I can't see you. If you there, please request for the mic. I can't see you. Thank you so much, Brian, for that update. Of course, there has been a lot of rumors, and then the news came before, and then we really didn't know. Some people were suspecting that maybe he was dead and all that. So maybe it is good, like, you would clear the air, and also knowing that he's in Kitalia, so Ugandans can start from there. Yes, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, well, actually, Sami, the day he was taken to Chitalia, they took him, he had fainted, because everyone in prison, because they just called the military, Maxon Bene Abasibe. Baba twala plus 37 others, bebaji babatwali punishment, bagamba bagenda bateka musele. Era favoring okutaba musel, kwe kubeera nti bamutulugunya nnyo because ali mu mbeera mbi. Because bagamba sima balina batwala musel, so we don't know how the cells bwe zibeera, but the inmates abali bagamba musel, it's the worst torture you can receive there in Chitalia.
Guys, okay, I've seen so many people now have made tweets about Sami. For those of you who cannot, I think Nalongo Yako's tweet, Nalongo Stella has just come. She made a tweet about Sami. I think we got some, also Nalongo Nana has come back. Maybe Brian has given us some latest, probably, Sola Jidam Bati Wali. Sami was broken, his hand was broken, his leg was broken, that's what Kimi Yaso Aquata. Tasso, if he's not in solitary, because he was tortured. So that's the only thing that is keeping him with other prisoners. Is it what you said, Brian? So, yeah, one of the things we opened this space was to talk about the conditions of the prisons, but also the abuses that take place in prisons. And the most significant one was that the recent lack of water in prison in Luzira. I think that also led to the protest teams. But if government can crush protests outside, now imagine a protest that is inside. Just know the conditions Sami Jalimu Eteko Kubanga, it's very, very, very worse. Because please.
Addition to that, today Sami angambye leero lunaku lulamba yasibye ne osiwe Chitalia. Naye nga bamubuuza wamatizzo otya bana abantu abamaze emyaka 3, abamaze emyaka 15 mu gundi. Because by the Sami abadde n'omusango gwa common nuisance, but afande Tindiyebwa, if you've ever been to Uganda Red Court omulaba owekitogi ekyero kirina mayinja 3. Afande Tindiyebwa gave special orders n'agamba Sami mube baakwata tebamuteeka nabali bamuteeke mu committal section. Abatamanyi committal section ebeeramu abantu nga ba misango minene, yatemula, yatta abantu, bwe bityo. Bamusalira emyaka 10, myaka 2. Kati leo abadde mu interrogation nga bamubuuza, how did you manage okumakinga abantu bano beekalakaase? Kozi beewunya kyajja kitya. Era right now wali Chitalia ne ku Minimax tebamukkiriza kuyimira n'abasibe basukka mu omu. Takkirizibwa. Naye nga mulwadde tafuna treatment gye yeetaaga. Bagase kati worst of all yafuna bail, kozi samba amuwa bail lwa quanti conditions nga tasobola zimiitinga.
Nalongo Nana, you're back.
I suggest you give the mic to human rights lawyer Eriana Wenwe if he has requested for it. If he hasn't yet, I see also Nalongo Stella Nyanzi has joined us. Ashana, the women have actually come. We earlier on had another space as women. That's why the space seemingly has been having less women. But I'm glad to see that women, fellow ex-prisoners, people that have experienced Luzira are here. I suggest that the mics can go to some of them that may want to share some of their experience before I can say any other thing. Thank you.
All right, I've sent them. Nalongo, I've sent you a mic. Nalongo still have sent a mic. Also, but I also have sent you a mic. Please take that mic. I think you had some network problem, but so if you are able to speak right now, you are requested. Please speak. Nalongo, mute your mic. Nalongo, pass mute. Okay. Yes, please go ahead. But please, you have the mic. I have.
Am I loud and
I have
clear?
unmuted. Yes, please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, MP UOT, Nalongo Nana, Council Aaron, and other speakers, as well as all the listeners at this space. Batawale Ronald is my name, and I was one of the prisoners who was arrested during the March to Parliament protests. There is something we are not talking about, what is happening at the prisons. The prisoners are tortured, enforced to do hard labor from prisons.